Hey, I'm D, and this is Demon's Garage. This is the top 10 tools you should probably have to get started with. First tool is ratchets. All different kinds of ratchets you can get, different sizes, but this is one of the tools that you're probably going to use the most repeatedly. There's all different kinds. There's even speed wrenches, which are technically socket wrenches. Next most important thing is actual sockets. These also come in many different sizes. The drives are different sizes, and the actual spot that fits on a nut's totally different sizes. The most important is there's two different kinds. There's 6 points, which are like this, and actually have for 6-sided bolts. Or you have 12-sided, which there are 12-sided bolts that you will run into. But sometimes you can get into a bolt easier with these. These you don't want to generally apply a lot of pressure to because the sidewalls are a little thinner. Next are adapters. There's all different kinds of adapters to run from. This one goes from 3/4 of an inch down to 1/2 inch. This one is 1/2 inch down to 3/8. This one is 3/8 down to 1/4. Extensions, pretty much like the name implies. It extends. The next thing is swivel sockets, or swivels, universals. If you have something that you need to work around and just can't get a good angle or it's a little tight, you can use these to kind of get around them. You don't want to go at a real steep angle because they won't stay real well. And then finally, you have impact sockets. These are for running on impact guns or the like. These are very hard, generally very hard to break. They are made to take a lot of abuse. Next thing is wrenches. There's many different kinds. This is what's known as an open-ended box wrench. Kind of get it? This is just a double-sided box wrench. Box wrench. Get it? This is a line wrench. These are for what it is. There's a cut so you can slide the line in there and then go up onto it. So these are generally used for brake lines, fuel lines, that kind of thing. And what it is, it spreads the load out over more sides and allows for a better grip. The next group of tools are hammers. There's all different kinds of hammers. This is a ball peen. This is generally what you'll use to beat on stuff and whatnot. This is what's known as a soft face dead blow. What it is, there's a cylinder in here that is filled with lead shot. And as you swing it, it all swings to the back. Well, once you hit it, all that lead shot comes smashing towards, and it's non-marring generally.
So it's a body hammer?
Well, it's for anything that's delicate. This is just a heavy hammer. This is really good. And these come in different weights. The heads come in different weights. You can have really small ones. You can have really big ones. You can get all the way up to a sledgehammer. This is not an automotive hammer. This is a carpenter's hammer. There is a difference. This is a body hammer. These come in various shapes and styles. Generally, if you can find these, the older ones, although generally need to be cleaned up, are actually better. You can buy cheap ones of these to get started with. The first thing you're going to do is generally work on the faces, because the faces are usually not the best things in the world, and you polish them. These obviously have been sitting for a while, so they need to be repolished. The only thing is, and I prefer either wooden handles or fiberglass handles are alright. The only problem is generally when you buy cheap hammers, you have to watch out for, because that'll happen. And it does happen at the most inconvenient time. But generally, you polish the faces and stuff, so this way none of the dents or mars or anything else transfers to your surface. And then as far as hammers, body hammers go, this is a dolly. This is another thing that you will use, which we'll later get on to, much later on, when you're straightening out metal. You can use it, if you have a dent, you can use it like this. You can use this off center to keep pressure on it. and hammer off dolly, or you can use it to hammer on dolly. When you hammer on dolly, it tends to stretch the metal. But like I said, we'll get into that at a later date. After hammers, the next thing you're going to need is something to also possibly beat on. Chisels. This is a cold chisel. You know, bing, bing, bing. Pry bars. Generally, you don't beat on these, but they are used in the same way. Sometimes you need to get behind something to force it off. And pickle forks, also known as ball joint fork. This is for separating ball joints in cars. You would put it in, hit it a bunch of times until it drives it in. And what it does is it slowly separates them until they're able to pop, because ball joints are generally on a taper. The one thing you need to watch out for, especially if you're buying old ones, is this is an old chisel. Is after using them for a while, the ends will start to mushroom. All you need to do is take it over to the bench grinder, and just, because as these mushroom over, sometimes they'll break and bend, or they'll bend over and they'll break. Sometimes shooting into random directions, sometimes into you. Next group are general pliers, pliers, needle nose, snips, wire strippers, that kind of thing. These work well. This pair of what they refer to as lineman pliers or lineman dikes. They have a wire cutter. They also have a general grab. There are various styles of these. These are one of those things that I tend to use a lot because they have multiple functions. One of the depending on what you're actually doing, this is known as a wire stripper, and what it does is it catches. You put the wire in here, and then there's different size gauges of wire, and all it does is just strips the insulation off the end. These aren't totally necessary, but if you find yourself doing a lot of electrical wiring, these are really helpful. The other thing is you can use these to separate the insulation in the center of a wire somewhere, so if you need to probe it to test it, that'll work. General needle nose. These a lot of times will also have wire snips in them. You should also have just a general set of wire snips, regular pair of pliers, and crescent wrenches. These are an adjustable wrench. These come in both metric and standard. The next thing, no less important than the previous things, are screwdrivers. You'll end up going through a lot of these, lots of different styles, lots of different heads. Phillips comes in 3 sizes, 1, 2, and 3 generally. Same thing with flatheads. Phillips is the little plus symbol ones. There's also special electrician ones that have little boxes in them. You'll have Torax, which are little 6-sided stars. You'll end up with lots of different ones depending on what exactly you're doing. Sometimes electric screwdrivers are really nice. The next thing that is really helpful, especially as you start to work on larger things, are impact guns. This one is corded. You can also get air-powered, which are called pneumatic. Pneumatic refers to air-powered tools. Cordless tools are nice for areas that you don't necessarily have electricity at, or you don't have enough extension cords to get to where you need to. These are also good for working out of your truck. The important thing is making sure that you have extra batteries and they are charged. The next big thing is, depending on what you're doing, sometimes sawzalls, which is technically a trade name, they're technically reciprocating saws, are also very useful. Once again, also in corded and cordless. These are actually really nice, especially when you're at the track, because sometimes you end up needing these, sometimes clearance bodies or something else, and then you don't have to worry about having a generator or enough generating power. The other thing, once again, make sure you have batteries and they are charged. These are also really nice for if you're pulling motors at the junkyard or the pick and pull or that sort of thing. One of the next very useful things are propane torches. You can get into these really inexpensively. This one has MAP gas. MAP gas actually burns a little hotter than propane. But you can use these for all different kinds of stuff. Anything from melting shrink wrap on electrical connections to preheating bolts so they'll take oil a little bit better and loosen up. This is a different one. The same thing, it's a propane torch. This one's a little more expensive, but it's nice because it has the hose. Ultimately, once you get into the hobby, at some point you're going to want to get yourself an actual oxy and acetylene tank set. The added thing is tape measures. You need all kinds of stuff to measure stuff when you're doing alignments or checking stuff, or even if you're building stuff, you end up needing tape measures a lot. There's all different kinds of tape measures, measuring devices, that kind of thing, and there's all different kinds you can use. Another useful tool is a bench grinder. You can take one of the grinding wheels off and put a wire wheel on it. These generally, you can buy them really cheap, even brand new, and they last for a very long time. I've literally had this and used this for over 20 years. If you found this helpful, like, subscribe, get out in the shop and do something.